Hi, friends. This is Benjamin from English Classes Online. Today, we are going to look at 5 comprehension question types you must know and how to answer them correctly. Being able to answer comprehension questions is not critical only to exam success, but it's also becoming critical to success in job interviews, especially when you want to get a job in certain large organizations. Now, reading comprehension has become a way of assessing people's language skills, not only in English exams, but also in job interviews, and of course, in international English proficiency tests such as IELTS, that is IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo English tests. Of course, you have reading questions that are related to comprehension in these English proficiency tests. So it is then important for you to know some of the most frequently occurring comprehension question types so that whenever the need arises, you will know exactly how to answer each of these question types. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Make sure you click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever a new video goes live on the channel, you will be notified instantly. Now, let's dive into the lesson right away. Let's begin with an agenda so that we look at the objectives we have set for ourselves in this lesson. Number 1, why is comprehension important? Number 2, types of comprehension questions. Number 3, how to answer comprehension questions with examples from past WAEC questions. We want to take some questions from the West African Senior School Certificate Examinations, all right? Just to illustrate these types of comprehension questions and how you can respond correctly to each of them. Now that brings us to the first item on our agenda. Why is comprehension important? I want you to just think about it. Number 1, as a student, you know that it is important for you to know how to answer comprehension questions correctly in order to pass your English exams excellently. That is a given, okay? However, the importance of comprehension has gone beyond the classroom and the exam hall, given the fact that many organizations now use comprehension to test the English proficiency of their applicants before employing them. Okay, that makes comprehension questions more important even now. Okay. So let's now move on, okay, to look at more reasons why comprehension is important. Comprehension itself is central to success in all fields of life, given that comprehension is about your ability to understand what you have read or heard, which will in turn enable you to explain, analyze, summarize, report, or respond to related questions. Because you know, in every important English proficiency test, literacy is central. And when you talk about literacy, it is the ability to read and write. So your ability to read a passage understand it, and answer questions on it, which is what comprehension is all about. It's really very critical in every English test or exam. Okay. Now let's move ahead to look at the various types of comprehension questions, okay? But first, I want you to understand that the various types of comprehension questions require various types of approach. Each comprehension question type requires its own approach. And this is why, you know, a lot of students score low marks in comprehension because they don't understand the type of question and they don't understand the right approach to that type of question. So that's one of what we are going to look at. So we are going to examine, you know, the various types of comprehension questions one by one and explain how to answer each question. So let's now begin to look at types of comprehension questions at a glance, okay? Number one, we have factual questions, okay? Now, number two, we have inferential questions, 3 grammatical questions, 4 figures of speech questions, 5 vocabulary questions. These are the 5 types of comprehension questions that we are going to look at one by one. Now, let's begin to examine them with the first one, which is the factual question. This type of comprehension question tests your understanding of the facts or ideas discussed in the passage. Factual questions are also called direct questions because they require you to pick the information directly from the passage. You know, when you come across a factual question or a direct question, you will find the answer directly in the passage. It will just be there. It's one of the simplest comprehension question types. Okay. Now, let's explain a little bit more with some illustrations. Now, consider this comprehension question taken from West African Senior School Certificate Examination, June 2020. And we have question 6, sub-question A. Why did the writer's mother never inform her children, something is missing there, of her intention to visit them? Okay. Now, I advise you to refer to this question. Is in the public domain, West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2020. You know, the passage is in question number 6 in the theory part. So you will read the passage and then you will see the question. Question A, why did the writer's mother never inform her children of her intention to visit them? And number 2, alphabet B, sub-question B. How did Mama while away the hours on the journey? You know, it was a long journey and she had to have a way to spend her time during that. And it is all explained in the passage. Now, one thing with comprehension is that once you understand the procedure for reading and for identifying the key ideas, then you will be able to answer the questions easily. Now, these questions, A and B, are factual or direct questions. In the passage, you will find that these facts are clearly stated. Okay? So in 6A, we find that as clearly stated in the passage, she knew she would always be welcome in her children's house. So as an elderly woman, she didn't think she needed to inform her children before visiting them. After all, they were her children. So that is the passage. Then answer to B, as clearly stated in the passage, she chatted with a fellow passenger in the bus. Okay. Now, if you check through the channel, the entire channel, and through the playlist and through the videos displayed, you will find a number of comprehension videos on comprehension lessons that I have already uploaded, and then those videos will give you more detailed explanation with the passage that you can read, and then step-by-step explanation of how to answer the questions. In today's video, we are concerned with looking at, the question types, what they are, and how to answer them, okay? So let's now move on, okay? We want to look at another example taken from question 7B of West African Senior School Certificate Examination, June 2004. And the question says, mention 2 consequences of the usual desperation of Africans to leave their countries. The passage is about Africans and their tendency to leave their countries and the desperation they usually have. They are desperate to leave their countries. And in the process, they get into some very bitter experiences. That's what the passage is about, okay? So now, the answer is as follows. The 2 consequences for the usual desperation of Africans to leave their countries are: I, they fall victim to passport and visa fraud. That's number 1. Okay, if you read the passage, you will extract this point there because it's clearly stated since it is a factual question. Young girls end up in forced prostitution. That's another consequence they usually suffer. The girls among these immigrants, they end up in forced prostitution. Now let's move ahead. In the above example, the answers are presented in short and simple sentences introduced by a preamble. Recently, I uploaded a video in which I explained what a preamble is and how you can use a preamble correctly. In that video, I also explained the misconceptions people have about using a preamble and the wrong ways in people use a preamble, which make them lose marks in English exams. So you might have to look for that video and watch it. Now let's move on to other explanations. We want to give yet another more explanation. In some cases, you may have to give your answers in phrases. You see, as we will see before rounding off, one of the basic requirements for answering comprehension questions correctly is precision. You need to be precise. Some comprehension questions require, short sentences. Some require phrases. Some require single words. So you need to identify the kind of question and the kind of answer needed to get it correctly. Now, let's look at this question. State 2 experiences that Eze looked forward to, okay? And that is in West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2004, question 6A, you will find this question. State 2 experiences that Eze looked forward to. And here we want to answer with a preamble, okay? Answer. The 2 experiences that Eze looked forward to are I, the good life of the city. I, a ride in a luxury bus. You can see that we answered these questions with phrases. Two of them are noun phrases to be precise. And that's simply because we have actually, decided also to use a preamble, okay, which is a good thing. Excuse me, which is a good thing to do when you are going to present two or more ideas in answer to a given question. You can use a preamble, okay? Now, we come to the second question type, which is inferential questions. Inferential questions demand that you figure out the answers based on the things implied in the passage. They are called interpretative questions because you need to interpret the information available in the passage to be able to arrive at the answer. The facts are not directly stated. That is why they are not direct questions. They are not explicitly stated. They are implied. So you have to figure them out. Let me give you an example. Rose, and her two friends, Jane and Mary. Let's use this as the two friends of Rose. Jane and Mary bought some apples and Rose didn't buy any. So her two friends gave her some apples. Jane gave her two apples and and Mary also gave her two apples. Now, you may be asked two questions. One may be a direct question. How many apples did Jane give to Rose? That is clearly stated in the passage that that Rose received two apples from her friend. So two apples are mentioned clearly in the passage. But if you are asked an inferential question, how many apples did Rose receive from her friends? The answer is 4 because, you are going to add the 2 she received from Jane to the 2 she received from Mary, and that gives you 4. But in that short story, which could be a short passage, there's nowhere you will find 4 apples. You only find 2 apples from Mary, 2 apples from Jane. But because you need to figure this out, once the facts are there, it is clearly, a mathematical reality that if you are asked how many apples she received from her friends, her 2 friends gave her 2 apples each, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So that is an example of what an inferential question looks like. The facts are not directly stated in the passage, but they are implied. So you figure out the answer, okay? So that's why it is called interpretative, because you need to interpret it to get the final answer. Now let's consider questions 6D to F in the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2019. Now, question D, what does the reference to Adamu's academic performance tell us about him? E, what is the writer's attitude towards Adamu? These things are not directly stated, but the facts are implied, okay? F, what tells us that Adamu was determined to be educated? Okay, these are all inferential questions because you need to figure the answers out based on facts implied but not directly stated in the passage. Okay, so that's the way inferential questions work. Okay, let's look at the inferential questions again. Okay, what does the reference to Adamu's academic performance tell us about him? What is the writer's attitude towards Adamu? What tells us that Adamu was determined to be educated? As earlier mentioned, these are all inferential questions. Let's look at what the answers should be. Again, I suggest you look for this particular past WAEC question. They are all in the public domain. And of course, you have a past question compilation guide that can actually show you where these questions are, because they are all organized in that booklet year by year. Okay. Now, the answers are as follows. 6A, the reference shows that Adamu was hardworking and intelligent. This is what you will figure out. Okay. Well, that alphabet A is a typo. It should be D. Okay. So take note of that. E, the writer's attitude towards Adamu was that of admiration and respect. Okay. Then F, he got himself enrolled in school and took care of the expenses all by himself. So when you read the passage, you figure out these answers, but then you need to interpret the facts that are implied. You need to figure out the answers to the questions. Okay. So that's about inferential or interpretative questions. Now, that brings us to question type number 3, which is grammatical questions. Some comprehension questions require you to state the grammatical name and the function of a particular expression taken from the passage. Okay, so they are grammatical questions. Okay, and you will need some knowledge of grammatical structures to be able to answer this kind of questions. Now, let's take example from the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2020. Question 6F is as follows. Who was also going to see her son in Lagos? This grammatical expression was just taken from the passage, and then 2 questions are asked based on the given grammatical expression. Question I, what grammatical name is given to this expression as it is used in the passage? I, what is its function? Now, I have uploaded a video on how to identify grammatical names and functions. So you can look for it, browse through the channel, or you use the playlist. Okay, you will look in the comprehension section, or you just browse through the entire channel, the various titles displayed. You will find comprehension questions conspicuously displayed. So you will find this particular video on how to identify grammatical names and functions. Okay, and that will give you an explanation. Okay, so these are grammatical questions, as you already know. So you need to know the English grammatical structures and their functions in order to answer these types of questions directly. Okay, now let's look at the questions 6F again. Who was also going to see her son in Lagos? What grammatical name is given to this expression as it is used in the passage? What is its function? Now let's look at how to answer this type of question. To answer these questions, we need to look at the entire sentence from which this expression was taken. You go to the passage, you see the entire sentence that contains this expression. And then you use the border principle. So if you watch that video on how to identify grammatical names and functions, you will find what I mean by the border principle and the questioning method. These are all explained in greater detail in that video. All right? And this will help you to arrive at the grammatical name and function of the given expression. Now, the answers are as follows based on what I have explained. Then, of course, this is 6F. This is a typo as well. It's not 6G, 6F. Then I, adjectival clause, that's the name. The grammatical name is adjectival clause. Then I, the function is modifies the noun passenger. So look for that video on how to identify grammatical names and functions, and you will be more grammatically knowledgeable after watching that video, okay? Now let's move on, and we have come to question type number 4, which is figures of speech. You know, questions on figures of speech are meant to test your knowledge of the various figures of speech and how they are used in a passage, okay? Certain expressions used in the passage are usually extracted, and you are asked what figure of speech it is, okay? To answer this type of question, you must have knowledge of the various figures of speech, such as simile, metaphor, personification, irony, euphemism, rhetorical question, and so forth. So you will find a number of videos I have uploaded explaining various figures of speech in English. A recent one that I've uploaded is titled Rules for Using Figures of Speech, okay? And of course, not necessarily rules for using figures of speech. In that video, you will find about 21 or so different figures of speech in English and how to figure out their meanings, okay? How to interpret their meanings. So you will find that video. Just look for videos on figures of speech. You will find how to interpret figures of speech, find out their meanings as used in the passage, and find out also their names, what they are. Now let's look at this question taken from the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of 2017. And that is question F. I had stirred up a hornet's nest, and should be prepared for a sting. Then question I, what figure of speech is this expression? What does it mean? Taken from West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2017. Again, these questions are in the public domain, and you can refer to them and check the passage, you know, and the figures of speech, how they are used in that passage. Okay, so now the answers to these questions don't require using sentences. You don't need to present them in sentences. All you need to do is to simply state them, okay? That is why we look at various types of comprehension questions, because some comprehension questions might require short sentences as answers. Some will require phrases, and some will require even a single word, okay? Now, let's look at the answer to question I, and that is metaphor. Now, I had stirred up a hornet's nest and should be prepared for a sting. A metaphor is a figure of speech in which one thing is used to represent another, you know, for descriptive purposes. For example, if you say that Henry is a lion in a boxing ring. Let's assume that Henry is a good and strong boxer. And then you say Henry is a lion in the boxing ring. You are not saying that Henry has become the animal called lion. You are just using the qualities that Henry has, which resemble the qualities of a lion, such as strength, hostility, bravery, and so on. And so you say Henry, is a lion. So that is an example. And so here, when you say, I stirred up a hornet's nest, hornets are certain creatures that can sting you if you stir up their nest. And so it is used as a kind of metaphor. And metaphor here means that this hornet's nest, or stirring up the hornet's nest, is used to refer to a situation where you trigger some reactions, people's reaction. You get some people angry, and so they have to get back at you. So that is just what it means. And so that is what a figure of speech does. A figure of speech could create some mental picture. For instance, if you are looking at the hornet's nest, and when you stir up the hornet's nest, those creatures will go after you and start to sting you. That is the mental picture you have that resembles when you do something that will trigger that will provoke someone, and you look at how they are going to react, in retaliation. So that's just what it means. Then the second one, the meaning, the writer had caused trouble and should be ready to face the consequences. That's just what it means. For example, if you slap someone, you expect them to get back at you. Or if you use an abusive word at someone who actually doesn't, who is, vindictive, so to say, he or she will get back at you right away. And that is exactly what is implied here. So let's now move on and let's consider another example. And this is another question, question G, like a person pursued by a demon, like a person pursued by a demon. This is an expression taken from the passage, and it's a figure of speech. And the question is, what figure of speech is used in this expression? This is taken from West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2019. Of course, when you have like, when you say that Henry is like a lion, that is a metaphor. Whenever you use this comparative words, let me use it, like, resemble, or as. If you say that the pot is as black as charcoal, then that is a simile as well, okay? And so simply state the answers as follows. Now, the answer is simile. I have already explained this, simile, okay? Now, let's look at the last comprehension question type, and that is vocabulary questions. You know what vocabulary means. These questions are meant to test your understanding of key vocabulary words used in the passage, okay? What is required is more than just knowing what each word means. You must find out its meaning as used in the passage. The question requires you to find another word or phrase that means the same and can replace it as it is used in the passage. So this is what we call contextual synonyms. Synonyms are words nearest in meaning, but they are not just mere words nearest in meaning. They are words that have acquired their meaning in context, because every English word is like a chameleon. It can change its meaning from one context to another. Okay, so let's try to illustrate what I have just said. Take the word man, for example. The meaning of man can change from one context to another, as shown in the following sentences. In sentence I, Musa is a man. The meaning of man in this sentence is an adult male human being. At least man is a person. Then in sentence II, the meaning changes. Musa was asked to man the engine room. The meaning of man is no longer a person, it's now an action. Okay, man here becomes an action verb, and the meaning is control or take charge. In other words, you can say Musa was asked to control the engine room, or Musa was asked to take charge of the engine room. You see how the meanings of English words change. So you must examine how a word is used in the passage in order to find another word that means the same and can replace it correctly. Okay? Now, this is called contextual synonym, as I earlier mentioned, and not just any synonym. You know, if you are to find a replacement for man in sentence II above, the answer will be man equals control, or man equals take charge of. Okay, so you can see you have to find the meaning of the word as it is used in the passage. So if you look at the word man in sentence II and you think that, well, a man is an adult male human being, you have failed that woefully, because that's not the meaning in that sentence. So when we are looking at contextual synonyms or replacement words, replacement of words as they are used in a passage, we are looking at the contextual meaning of the words. Okay? So now let's look at question 6I in the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2020. Now the instruction is this: for each of the following words, find another word or phrase which means the same and which can replace it as it is used in the passage. I, unimaginable. I, heartily. I, outrageous. IV, numerous. V, frantically. And VI, fraudulent. Now, again, I suggest you refer to the passage, in this West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2020, refer to the comprehension passage for question number 6. They are in the public domain. So you go through the passage and you'll be able to understand how these words are used, okay? And based on how they are used in the passage, unimaginable means unbelievable. It also means inconceivable or unthinkable. Well, I have just given 3 different words here just for illustration. When answering questions in an English exam or test, you will only pick one word. Don't use 2 or more, because that might look like guesswork, and of course you might be penalized or you lose the marks. Okay, so this something is missing here. Heartily means happily, excitedly, or joyfully. Then we have outrageous. It means extremely high, exorbitant, or excessive when you are describing a price of something. Then numerous means many or frequent. Then frantically means very hard or seriously or earnestly. And then fraudulent means dubious, dishonest, or deceitful. So we have looked at the various types of questions and how to answer them. Then one other thing you need to understand is that to answer comprehension questions correctly, you need to be precise. Make sure you present your answers with precision. Okay? For example, your answers to comprehension questions should be presented with precision. That has been said. This means you need to present your answers in simple sentences where necessary. You need to identify the type of question and then precisely present the answer that is required. Where sentences are not necessary, simply state your answers in words or phrases as exemplified above in the case of grammatical questions, figures of speech, and vocabulary questions. So you need to know the type of comprehension question that you have been asked to answer, and then you give the exact type of answer precisely. Give only one correct answer. Avoid guesswork and giving multiple answers where only one is required. I mentioned it. I use various examples, but just for illustration, when you are answering comprehension questions, give one answer where you are only to give one answer. Don't give alternative answers, okay? Then, above all, make sure that your answers are free from grammatical or spelling errors, okay? So this is where we draw the curtain in today's video, okay? I hope you have gained a lot from today's video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and share the video with your friends and relations. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. I look forward to seeing you in the next class. Make sure you type in your comments, your suggestions, or your questions in the comment section below. If you have any, you will also be doing yourself a great service if you check through the description section, because there are a lot of resources that are included there. For example, if you want to learn more about the basic units of English grammar, you will find a free PDF ebook. Just click on the link and you can download it completely free of charge. You will find other ebooks on English learning. For example, Good Success in English, a complete study package for effective English learning. There are a lot of others. But as I have always explained, on this channel, we teach the English language, but we also teach you how you can use the English language to create content. Because many people who probably graduated, as English degree majors are wondering how they can use the English language to earn a living beyond teaching the English language. Now, one of the most lucrative ways to earn a living with your proficiency in the use of English is in content creation, because you need to understand that being proficient in a language gives you a very powerful tool for creating content in that language. We teach you on this channel how to use the English language as an effective and very powerful tool for creating content. And once you can create valuable content, then you can monetize the content and use your content to create multiple streams of income on various online platforms. In the digital economy of the 21st century, content creation is becoming one of the most lucrative digital skills that you can find anywhere. And on this channel, we teach you different content creation skills. If, for example, you are interested in learning how you can set up your own online teaching business, you will find a link, to a training course that we have put together, which will enable you to use my blueprints and create an online teaching business for yourself. I taught English in high school, various high schools, for over 12 years. And during that period, I rose to the position of a principal. But I eventually decided to quit the job because I wanted to set up a teaching business, in which I am my own boss, okay, and which gives me the freedom to pursue my own dream and to earn my own income in my own way, okay, without being bossed around, so to say, okay? So now, if you desire to do something like that, let's assume you are an English teacher, or if just a teacher, but you are proficient in the use of English, either in a private-owned school or in a government school. Of course, nobody is saying you should resign from your job. You can set up an online teaching business part-time. You can do it part-time and grow your business as a backup, something you can fall back on anytime you decide to quit the job, or if you get a dismissal letter, which can happen to any employee anytime, any day. And for whatever reason, the employer just has to wake up and become dissatisfied with your service. And he writes a letter to tell you that your services are no longer required. Job security is not a given anymore, okay? Especially with different organizations closing shop, different companies, declaring quite a number of their employees redundant and then laying them off. So you need to start something that you can fall back upon. And then there are also digital skill development ebooks and online courses that I have also created. You will find the links in the description box. So if you are interested in any of these, simply click on the link and then you'll be able to gain access to that particular resource. Or you may want to visit our official website, the official website for English classes online. The web address is www.englishclassesonline.com.ng. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you in the new video.